A skilled woman hunts daily in the African wilderness, taking down wild chickens with a single arrow from several meters away. This hefty wild chicken is enough to satisfy her hunger, allowing her to savor a pot of stew even in the wild. Would you be up for such a survival challenge? This challenge unfolds in Mozambique's African wilderness, a wildlife park for the skilled. In this wild setting, you could enjoy endless feasts, but you might also end up as lion prey. Despite the risks, two brave souls have arrived to test their limits for over 20 days, with a $100,000 prize at stake. One of them is Brooke, the wife of wilderness survival expert Mark. She has learned a lot of survival skills from her husband. This time, she aims to prove herself. This duo is determined and resilient, teaming up to win the prize. Dylan, the young newcomer, brings fresh energy. So what sparks will fly in this wilderness survival challenge between a young woman and a fresh-faced man? Brooke, upon arriving, couldn't wait to shed her restraints. The color of her little vest is quite eye-catching. Dylan, however, appears calm and collected. He even encountered a large animal on his way. When Brooke first met Dylan, she thought he seemed young and awkward, like when she first met her husband.
I immediately noticed that he's young, that is naked for the first time.
Though she said it was awkward, she was actually thrilled inside. After meeting, they got to know each other, boasting about their impressive skills. The show provided them with a pot and a fire starter. Dylan brought a machete, while Brooke brought a hunting bow. Dylan, also a hunter, was excited to see Brooke with a bow. Throughout the process, they were quite reserved given the situation. They needed to walk 5 kilometers to their challenge destination. On their way, they encountered snakes, lions, and other dangerous animals, making the journey itself a challenge. They climbed a high point to survey the area. Luckily, there was no sun, but the scene was very desolate. They couldn't find any water sources. On the way, they found a snake skin, indicating the possible presence of a large snake nearby. To find water, they had to trek 5 kilometers through treacherous terrain. Descending the mountain was tough too. As they rushed along, the weather suddenly turned bad. Walking barefoot on the dry ground felt like being scouted. They saw many turkeys on the way. It was a great hunting opportunity, but unfortunately, they missed it. After trekking for hours, they found water. Brooke collected some, but they didn't plan to build a shelter there. It was risky since many animals came to drink there, so they moved a few hundred meters away. It was suitable for building a shelter. They started collecting wood to build it. The area was quite open. They needed a lot of wood to ensure their safety. To my surprise, they built a compact shelter. Stones were piled around the shelter's entrance. It was so tiny, how could 2 people lie down inside? Unless they intended to sleep sitting up. By 6, the African wilderness turned terrifyingly dark. They needed to start a fire quickly to keep wild animals away. As night fell, they covered themselves with dry grass and slept by the fire. They occasionally heard animal sounds outside, which scared them and kept them awake. Morning finally came. Dylan went to fetch water while Brooke stayed at the shelter, still shaken by the previous night's events. Brooke gathered firewood close to the shelter, working to enhance their camp. Dylan returned with a pot of water. He spotted some cattails nearby, which are edible and can be roasted or used medicinally. Dylan gathered a few to bring back. For breakfast, they ate cattails, which made Brooke very happy. The white roots can be eaten raw. Though not as tasty as meat, having something to eat was still good. After breakfast, Dylan took his bow and went out hunting. From the shelter, Brooke spotted wild boars roaming around, but Dylan had taken the bow. The African wilderness was unforgiving. Brooke crafted shoes from animal hide, hoping they'd hold up. Dylan went to the water's edge, hoping to hunt a bird to make soup. But hunting wasn't as easy as he thought. Dylan kept searching for prey around the area, even from a distance. They always noticed him, likely because the wind carried his scent. The birds would smell him and fly away, leading to repeated hunting setbacks for Dylan. His spirits were crushed. Meanwhile, Brooke was thrilled at the shelter, having just crafted a pair of shoes. With shoes, he didn't have to worry about sharp objects anymore. Dylan crouched by the water, waiting for birds. Finally, a chance came, but a boss bird came to drink and scared them away. Fortunately, Dylan, still naive, didn't complain. The midday sun was scorching. Dylan continued to hunt outside despite the heat. Luckily, he found a fruit tree with plenty of wild fruits. He collected a lot and brought them back to the shelter around 4 p.m., bringing back many fruits. Lacking meat, they had to rely on fruits. Dylan always returned with something, while Brooke could rest. The fruits were tasty, and they drank lots of water. After eating, Brooke went to sleep since daytime rest was crucial. At night, wild animals circled the shelter, keeping them awake. During Dylan's night watch, a spark ignited the shelter, and the dry grass they used for bedding made the fire spread rapidly. Dylan couldn't control the blaze and the shelter was destroyed. It was intense. Luckily, they eventually put out the fire. By the third day, the shelter was in ruins. In the coming days, they had to be more vigilant about fires. The area was so dry that it was easy for fires to start. After days of hunger, they had to rebuild the shelter. This was extremely exhausting, especially for Dylan, who had to shoulder most of the heavy work. Even though Brooke gathered leaves, Dylan remained exhausted. Learning from their past mistake, they constructed the new shelter with green branches and grass. Once done, Dylan fetched a pot of water. The new shelter was very comfortable and cool inside. By the fourth day, Brooke chose to hunt while Dylan stayed at the shelter, crafting spiked fur pants. Night watches left him very tired, so he could only rest during the day. Brooke went out hunting and saw many wild chickens nearby. He aimed and shot an arrow, but unfortunately missed. The sun outside was scorching, making his skin feel like it was burning. Dylan was resting in the shelter when he suddenly felt nauseous and wanted to vomit. Brooke looked busy and hoped he was okay. At night, Dylan kept vomiting. By the fifth day, he was very thirsty early in the morning. It was likely due to dehydration or contaminated water. It's only the fifth day, and he's already in this condition. How can he survive 21 days? Dylan's been collapsing often since yesterday. On the sixth day, Dylan's condition hadn't improved. He vomited some seaweed-like strands. Seeing his state, it was clear how much he was suffering, but Brooke didn't know what to do. Dylan had been vomiting for over 36 hours. Seeing him wake up, Brooke called a doctor.
All right, in here, I took a little sip of water and it hurt.
And just try to sit up without. The water here has a lot of bacteria in it. So I think that you have a chance caused by
due to toxins in the contaminated area. Yes, I'm done. I'm too weak. I really hope to face this challenge with my partner. I really don't want him to leave. I didn't expect today to turn out like this. You can do it. Thank you. I wish I could do it with you. After examining him, the doctor suspected the water here had many bacteria. He might have swallowed some raw water while swimming, causing bacteria to enter his lungs. In the end, Dylan had to leave due to illness. Brooke stayed on to face the challenge alone, needing to survive 21 days by herself. In the shelter, she constantly heard the sounds of wild animals. Brooke didn't dare to sleep at night. On the seventh day, she went out hunting as usual. By the ninth day, she needed to improve the shelter daily to ensure safety at night. Hunting here was really difficult. Brooke gradually lost confidence in hunting. Bored, she sunbathed outside. The temperature difference at night in Africa was significant. Even with fur, she shivered from the cold. Soon, it was the 11th day. Brooke stayed alive by drinking water daily. She spotted many fish and attempted to shoot them with her bow and arrow. On the 15th day, she spent an hour hunting daily but never succeeded. By the 17th day, it started raining heavily. She had to stay in the shelter for 24 hours. On the 18th day, Brooke looked at a photo Matt had given her. A strong man's wife holding her tools, but she had no success. She went out hunting every day. Despite the abundance of prey, she couldn't catch any. Days passed by. Brooke could only drink water to survive. In a place full of prey, she couldn't get any protein. One day, while getting water, she spotted several wild birds. She aimed her bow, took a shot, and this time, she hit one. What amazing fortune! Brooke admired her successful shot and headed back to the shelter. Tonight would be a feast. That night, she ate meat in the shelter. After being hungry for so long, she finally had a big meal.
Look at all that meat.
The 21st day arrived, marking the end of the challenge. At dawn, Brooke packed her belongings. The extraction point was 5 kilometers away. She had to trek 5 kilometers to the extraction point, constantly on guard against dangers. Surviving on water and hunger, she faced a perilous journey. She survived the 21 days and, despite finally getting some luck with a pot of stew, she truly earned the $100,000 prize. In the end, Brooke successfully reached the destination. So, who will come to challenge next time? Stay tuned for the next video update.